Ronnie Nelson, the first man I ever fell in love with. He's driving the boat, and I think that's Floyd Drake on there with him. Ronnie was not part of my dad's dive team, but obviously he's helping because there's the dive team, and they're in the process of raising a fishing tug named the Peggy Marie. Jim Bard owned the Peggy Marie when she sank. This is in the channel west of the piers, almost to the intersection of Center and Phoenix. When the Peggy sank, Jim did not have the money to have her raised, so he went to my dad and said, "If you raise this tug, I will give you 50% interest in her. And anything that I make, you'll receive 50%. There's my dad, and in the back you can see Ronnie with his pink and white shirt on. So Dad set about raising up the Peggy Marie. This is all boat slips now. It's a marina because, as I said, South Haven is now geared toward the tourists, not toward the locals. They took those great big tanks that you just saw, and they took them down, put them inside the Peggy, and then filled them with air. So I'm not sure what's in them right now. But that was how they raised her, and it was a process. I remember sitting there watching these guys as they would dive down and take those tanks down. I'm not sure if Dad dove. I'm assuming that he did. But if he did, I'm not sure which one he is, because I can't see his mustache. Unless that's him way up in the back there. There's his little mustache. And there's Ronnie. Oh my goodness. And Shirley. Now, I can't have Shirley sitting next to my Ronnie, so you can see my knees and my little head sitting next to Ronnie Nelson. And that's Floyd Drake on the left and me on the right. There's my grandpa's head. Ronnie Nelson moved to Florida. I don't remember exactly when. That is Pudgy Hill. That's the only name that I remember from my dad's team. The reason he's laying there like that is because he came up too quick and he got some cramps. And there is the top of the Peggy Marie as she's being raised. That was quite a joyous time, if I remember right, just to see a little bit of her coming up. There's my dad, and Bob is standing next to him, my brother Bob, who is 9 years older than me. And they're unloading. I believe that they are still in town because this is not the garage, obviously, because there's a river there. They did some work up in Saugatuck also, so this might be up in Saugatuck. The Peggy Marie, yep, it is Saugatuck because there's a boat trip. The Peggy Marie was worked on by Dad and Jim Bard and my mom. I remember taking a ride in her. She was a fish tug. There were 3 fish tugs. They're in South Haven, the LCJ and the Butch and the Peggy Marie. This is Saugatuck, which would be the Kalamazoo River. What they're diving for, I have no idea. And I'm assuming this is still on the river. I remember a time we went out to a lake because there's Mount Baldy. That's in Saugatuck. We climbed it a few times. And on the other side of that is Lake Michigan. As I was saying, we went out to a lake one time where my dad was pulling up some logs. I don't know exactly how the logs got down there or what lake it was. We had a pontoon boat, and I was on the pontoon boat with my mom and Shirley and a few other people. And there was a gentleman, one of Dad's friends, I guess, that was in the water, and he was pushing the pontoon boat with his foot. There's Grandpa Jack. This, I believe, is back out at the garage. Those are the tanks that were put inside the Peggy Marie, and that's Bob standing up on the trailer. The gentleman who was pushing that pontoon boat got his foot caught in the propeller. Grandpa and his cigarettes and Bob. So we all had to take the boat back into shore, and we had to take him to the hospital. I have no idea whatever happened to that gentleman, but that's a memory that I have from when I was a kid. Grandpa Jack started the business of Jack's Garage probably in the 40s when they moved out there. Oh, of course, here's our ace mechanic, David. He's helping work on the Peggy Marie's engine. I'm not exactly sure what all this stuff is for, but it belonged to the Peggy Marie, and Dad brought all this stuff back to work on it to get it running again so that the Peggy would be seaworthy. And of course, David, he just had to get in there and help out, make sure the guys were doing their job right. I don't know how old he was, maybe 7 or 8, if this was in 1960. I don't know anything about engines either. I just know this one was pretty rusty, having been in the water for a while. I don't know how long the Peggy was down there. It couldn't have been too awfully long. But at some point, my dad got that engine going again. My dad was a master mechanic. You could drive into his driveway, and he could listen to your car as you're driving in and tell you what was wrong with it. Of course, that was before they started putting computers on engines. This is back at the old garage, as you can see. I'm not sure who those guys are. My dad was born in February of 1930. He was, as I said, the oldest of 4 children. He was 18 years old when he married my mom, who was at that point 24 and had a son. Excuse me. There's Bob again. And there is the Peggy Marie. And that appears to be the old bridge in South Haven. I see David on the sidelines there. Many of these films were put together at different times. So we're going to see films later of the Peggy Marie being worked on. But this is when she became seaworthy again. There's my dad, Alfred Goodrode. And there's David Vincent Goodrode. This is back out at the garage. My dad was also a welder, as was David, as you can see. I don't think there's anything that my dad could not do. He was a scuba diver and he was a pilot. He was a welder and a builder. And there is Jim Bard, who likes having their picture taken anyway. I'm assuming this is more fall colors in South Haven, but I'm not sure where. My mom was born in July of 1924. As I said, she was an only child. There's the Peggy Marie. This is long before she was seaworthy. This is when they got her out of the water and brought her over north of the bridge, brought her up on land, and commenced to working on her. Where she is right now, of course, is all marinas. It's all marinas in that area. Many of the houses are gone, and there's condos there now. This is looking west to Park Avenue. And now we're panning up toward the north. And as you can see, there's a lot of woods, a lot of trees. I don't think there's a tree down there now. I think it's all... That, I'm sure, was the LCJ. I just caught a glimpse of her name, but she was one of the other tugs. This is just south of the bridge. There used to be McGuire's Coffee Company there. And there's the old turnstile bridge, which of course was replaced, I think, in 1968 with a drawbridge. But that long building that we saw just a moment ago was a warehouse. There's Bob and David and my dad. Where's Ronnie? That warehouse used to service many ships that would come in. South Haven was quite a trade center at that time. There's my guy. This is south of the bridge. I think they're headed out toward open water. Sure is different down there now. Actually, I think they're headed north. Anyway, they're on Black River in South Haven. South Haven wasn't oh, that is the yacht club. Not that building, but that little brown building. We never went there, of course, because we didn't have a yacht. We had a fish tug. I think this is probably at one of the marinas. There were a couple of them there when I was a kid. And we used to go and look at the big boats. I think this is George's Marina, which we have more pictures of it later on. I'm sure that Dad was checking out the boats and checking out the mechanics of how to get them out of the water, what to do with them. I think that's Oak Street up there. I don't have a whole lot to say about boats. Sorry, guys. My dad, as I said, was a scuba diver and a pilot. At one point, he had an egg business, and he would candle the eggs, and then he would deliver them